Hey everybody, welcome to Ellis Mowers. I appreciate you watching the channel as always. We've done one golf cart on the channel in 2022. We're about to do another one here, hopefully. A little bit more involved than the Yamaha that I did. This is a club car DS 2006 model and in for repair. What it's doing is that it's got a bad oil leak when it's running, and from what I'm investigating and learning is that whenever these club cars get overfilled with oil, they absolutely do not like it. And what happens is the crankcase gasket blows on them. Pretty sure that's what's wrong with this one. Determining from where the oil is coming from. I was hoping that it was coming out of like a dipstick tube, where the dipstick tube joins in with the crankcase, but it's not. It's coming from behind it somewhere. I've got it washed up and everything. We're going to see if we can get into it. Going to be an engine out job, so we got to take the engine out of this thing in order to get what we need to get to. Never really done a little bit of research, never have done one of these before, so if you're coming here for a tutorial, bear with me if you don't mind, alright? We're going to see if we can get it done here. But if you have any questions about this video, I'll do my best to answer them. Feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. Let me show you what we're working with this club car, and then we will get started. Alright, so like I said, it's a club car DS. And again, you do see that I have done a garage overhaul. If you're a loyal viewer to the channel, that video in detail will be coming up at the end of 2022. Obviously gas. It's a Kawasaki. It's got the FE 290 engine in it. I think they have a 290 and a 350 that you can get. This is the 290. A little bit of extra wiring here that doesn't go to anything. I'll just rip it out for the customer. Went to a toggle switch here that no longer functions as anything. So like I said, I've cleaned up everything on this side, as you can see. We're going to go to the other side. Hopefully y'all can see. These lights that I have are so much better for visibility, hopefully. So if we're going to look in here, most of the oil is coming in the dark area down there. So it's what it is it's pulling on this, I guess you'd call it the engine cradle. It's pulling on the cradle and just dripping like crazy. I haven't ran it since I washed it because I wanted it to be as clean as possible for me whenever I do this. And it's not coming from where the dipstick is because it's coming from somewhere up in here. So I'll do my best to show you where it's coming from when we get this engine off. We do have a little bit of work to do, it looks like. We have to take the variable clutch off. Hopefully that's not going to be too hard. Like I said, I've never done one of these before, so surprise, surprise. Hopefully I don't run into anything. And we'll see what we end up needing to do. But it's leaking really bad. So, first off, got to take some grounds and stuff off. Looks like I've got, let's see, we got starter solenoid. We got to take the air pipe off, breather, fuel line, this ground strap, let's see, that's a crankcase fuel line breather right there, or pulse for the fuel pump. Sure, there's a throttle cable hanging out here somewhere. Starter belt. We got a lot of work to do, so let's go ahead and get going with it. I will mostly show you what I had to do to get this off as opposed to showing you the whole thing just to save some time, because I'm going to be learning myself here. First things first, we're going to disconnect the battery, and then we'll disconnect everything we need to disconnect before we get to the point where we need to take this thing out. Well, we are getting deep into this. It's not bad. It's just a bunch of taking stuff off just to get this thing off. So I took this top panel off. I have the seat kit off of it to have better access in the back here. And I've gotten a couple of bolts off, trying to get this off, but I can't because of this pulley, and apparently you have to have a specific pulley puller for this club car that I don't have, so I think I'll have to order it. And the only thing that's really in my way right now is this throttle cable and coil wire, it looks like. So I wonder if I can just pull this coil wire that goes back there, because what they do is it hangs on this bracket where the engine is, and I'm thinking, let's see, I've got one ground back there as well that I've got to take off. A couple other small wires, and this is basically off. So taking shrouds off, it's literally just 10mm bolts and whatnot. The exhaust was a bracket, a couple of bolts, and then a clamp around that bracket you see in the back. Again, carb is off, throttle mechanism is basically off. I had to remove the starter bracket there. I still don't know exactly what I want to do with that to get it out of the way, but the engine is just this portion right here. So I know if I can get the engine out, it's gonna be fairly easy to, once I pop the clutch and, you know, change out this gasket and everything. So I guess I'll keep on cruising. Like I said, it's not going to be the best tutorial video. I just want to see if I can do it. Y'all see me do a bunch of lawnmowers. I figured I might as well give myself a crack at a golf cart here, right? Alright guys, we are at the point of taking this thing off. Just going to get a couple things out of the way here. There are 4 mounting bolts on the bottom. There are 6 mounting bolts in the back. 4 of them are for the engine cradle only, and then the other 2 that you see with the little threads sticking out are the ones for the engine. You only have to take the middle 2 off. So there's 6 bolts holding it on, and now we have the joy of getting this thing out. There is no starter on it, so that should mean that it's relatively light, or lighter. The clutch is still on it because I can't get the clutch off because I need a special tool. But can we get it off like it is? Let's see. Hey, there she is. All right. Easier than I thought. I will say this much. For the first time for me ever doing something like this, going pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. There's your engine cradle, and there are those other 4 bolts I was talking about. Really fairly straightforward. It could be a lot worse. You basically just disconnect your airbox, fuel line, starter, and just those connections. Take the muffler off, and I'm about, let's see, I'm not 2 hours deep into this, and this is my first time ever doing this, so we're getting there. So now with the engine off, I'll get it on the stand, and I think I'm in a holding pattern until I can get the clutch puller off, or the clutch puller, so that I can pull the clutch off. And I'll get it on the stand, and we'll give a look as to where it is leaking from. But you can see we've got a bunch of grass built up and stuff along those lines right here. It really just needs a really good cleaning before I go take this thing and tear it apart, as well as the engine cradle. You see all that dirt and stuff just caked up everywhere. So we're going to give this thing a really good cleaning on the inside yet again. I did already clean it once just to get all the oil off of it. And then we'll just plug away and put it back on. The only thing left to do is to take off the clutch and the cover, and then we can put the gasket on be ready to rock and roll here before long. All right, got it on the bench. Let me show you where I think I'm having an issue. So this is an area where it's leaking at, basically right around this bolt right here. Let me go a little bit lighter there, or a little bit darker. So right, I don't know if y'all can see it. Right there, kind of see where it has gasket and then no gasket? So that is my theory, is that what it did, they say if you get them overfilled with oil, they like to blow out the gasket. So I put the brake cleaner on it just to see if anything changed, and nothing really changed. But if you look around the whole engine of this thing, you have gasket material that is exposed basically around the whole thing. There's no gaps to where you can see through the crankcase cover into the block of the engine. So that's... Got my hands mixed up. Sorry, y'all. I was moving the light, not moving the camera. So I believe what happened is this portion blew out and then just started leaking all down through here. Just, just blowing it out of the crankcase. I doubt it's the head. Because if it was the head, I feel like it would be more oil residue right underneath down here. Oh, the head even stops up here. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know why I thought it went down there. So we're definitely looking at the crankcase cover. But man, look at how dirty this thing is. Stop up the intake and the exhaust with a couple of rags or something along those lines, and just go to town on this thing with the pressure washer in addition to the golf cart. So it'll be fixed, fingers crossed, when we put it back together. But definitely an issue right there with that crankcase gasket, which we've got one right here, and I lined it up just to see how, it looked. And I believe that is the way that it went. And I was looking to see if there was any, like, when you go around these two, to see if there was any sort of sudden, like, change. But it's just around the bolt holes, so that would make sense. I'm trying to convince myself on camera, can you tell? I've said it about 1,000 times. I do need to get a clutch puller for this, though. It doesn't seem like there's any way around doing that. So I will do some research, and I'll join y'all when it's time to take this thing off. I'll get it all cleaned up and everything, too. Alright guys, we have gotten to the point that I've gotten everything off. I didn't film it because I'm not an expert at this. This is my first time ever doing it, but I am going to explain what I ended up doing. Number one, I watched a YouTube video. It's Mower Medic, so if I remember, I will put the link to his video in the description below. It's something titled like Old Mechanics Trick to Get Clutches and Generator Rotors Off. And all we did was shove the clutch full of grease. Grease will not compress, and so once you get all that stuff in there, there's two bolts, or there's a bolt that you can use. It's a 7/16 by 20 thread. That's what's currently in here. So there's on this, I guess you call this the driven clutch, primary clutch, I don't know. All I know is that it's the clutch. It goes in and out. So shove a bunch of grease in here. You'll kind of see it in the shaft right here. I'll have to clean that out before I get it out. But you shove a bunch of grease into the shaft, and eventually this fills up with grease. You take a 7/16 by 20 bolt that's only about that long. As long as you have enough in there, it'll compress that grease enough, and you feel it start to tighten, and then boom, popped right off with the impact right there. So now what I've done is all I had to do was tap off the this, and I've gotten it off after I took the bolts and stuff off. I took a picture of the orientation of the bolts as well. That way I didn't forget how it rolled. I second guessed myself on cleaning the engine with a pressure washer. I don't want to screw anything up. I know it runs as it is. I took a wire brush to a bunch of stuff and got it much cleaner than it was. Made sure the fins and stuff are as clean as it possibly could be. And we'll put it back on. I'm just wary of pressure washing something and causing more issues. Got as much dirt as I could out of this mess. I mean, it is just caked on completely. Some of y'all disagree with me about what I did, but that's okay. So my issue arose, so if I showed it to y'all, this area right here was where we were leaking from, I believe. Yes. So if you look on the gasket here for the crankcase, you can see that this right here is indented in. It's very brittle too. So I think what happened is the gasket just dried up from where it sat for so long and maybe sucked itself in. So I'm thinking it's not a case of the oil being overfilled. I think it was a case of the golf cart just sitting for a while and the gasket just getting brittle. Because you can kind of see, you saw where it was just kind of sunk in right along the area where I said there was looked like there was a gap right along the area where the oil was coming in. So everything checks out when it comes to that. So now we're just going to either peel off this gasket, scrape off this gasket, whatever works best, and we'll put the new one on. When I get the new one on, I'll update y'all on what we need to do. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is there was this piece of, I don't even know what it was, wire or something along those lines that came out of this. It was stuck in the shaft, I think, whenever I did this. I don't see where it, causes any issues or why it was in there in the first place. Maybe somebody's been in this before, I don't know. But let's see. Engine wise, there's a couple little markings on that. I guess that's the counterbalance. So everything else looks okay though. All things considered, this golf cart looks like it was used for golf cart use on a golf course. So, you know, people rent carts and whatnot, and they're not going to take care of stuff. So I'm thinking that that's what, because it's got a golf club's name on it. So it's probably used pretty good and then sold off. Somebody had it and parked it. So I'm going to work on this. I'll get it all cleaned up, looking pretty. Put the new gasket on. We'll put everything back together. Well, when I left you, I had it on the bench still. And I just went to town, y'all, honestly. I am not done, but I'm close. I've got to figure out, there's one like panel here that I've got to figure out where it goes and what it does, and a few bolts. But I think for all intents and purposes we can start it. I've got all the grounds and stuff hooked up. I did turn it on this, and it's wanting to start. You hear it? Wanting to. Got to get some fuel primed up in there, I think. We've got it. Do we have it? Everything? So that's forward. So we do need to just get some things. There we go. She's a little cold-blooded. Got a little bit of a clutch is working. Woo, hello. She's full of oil and running. That's good. Now, is it leaking anything? That's the question. Are we leaking anything? Everything I see is dry so far, so that's good. A little bit of squeaking though. I think the clutch has got a little bit of Alright, so we know it drives and whatnot. What is that noise? Making all kinds of weird noises here. I don't see any oil yet. I just need to honestly just take this thing for a drive. It's dark outside now, but for what we're going to do, let's just drive it out. I could put the seat on it, that would help. Oh! Like I said, there are a few things I still need to do to it. I still gotta like put the throttle linkage on right and a couple like that plate or something like that. I gotta figure out where that goes. I just need to look at a diagram for that. It's the first time I've ever done one of these, and I think I just took stuff apart and put it back together and did as good as I thought, or did better than I thought putting things back together, so. One second. Gotta figure out this neutral thing. 1 second. Okay, 1 second here. There we go. All right. This thing is a dog, but maybe it needs a little bit of run time. I'm gonna take it up and down the driveway. I'd love to take it up and down the road, but it's a little bit too dark in order to do that tonight. In terms of oil leaking, I should see puddles at this point, but I don't see anything. I'll get a flashlight in there one more time real quick. We're just gonna make sure there's no leaking or anything like that. I mean, it's pretty obvious that what it was that gasket, because we saw it blown out. So I don't see any seeping. This thing definitely would be like really bad off. already starting to leak if that was the case. It's just a little oil burn off. I'm just going to take it around. It's full of oil. Need to figure out how to adjust the governor a little bit on it, because it is a little on the SLOW side. And well, I'll get back to you. I'm kind of excited because this is the first time I've ever done an engine out job. And honestly, it's gone really smooth so far. So I'm really happy. Well, before I could even finish the video to wrap it up, it's gone. And back to the customer. Y'all did hear it run. I took it for a couple of rides around the block here. It did golf cart things. it ran and drove. Doesn't stop very well. The engine, I think somebody has run it low on oil at some point because it's got a little bit of a, sounds like a little bit of a knock to it, and smoking a little bit. So not surprising. Somebody may have looked up that country club that was on the front. It was called Old Homestead. And when I looked it up, it looks like it came from a country club that was near Allentown, Pennsylvania. So it's taken a little bit of a ride to get down here to North Carolina. Figured that it was probably used for a golf cart for a while, like a rental. And you know how folks treat rental golf carts on the golf course, if you are familiar with playing golf. Just like they treat rental cars most of the time. So it was probably run pretty hard there for a while, and then set up for probably a good 8 years or so, and somehow miraculously it still ran without even needing a carb clean, I think, which is amazing. But yeah, it's back and it's gone. Put everything back together as y'all saw. Put the seat and stuff back on. Missed a cover on the bottom of the engine, so that was a little bit of a bear to get back on with the engine on, but I did get that cover back on. Gave it a good run, got everything nice and hot and moving, and turned up the governor just a tiny bit on it so it runs a little bit faster, but not to the point where it's over revving, because it was a little bit on the lazy side, so we did that as well. That's just kind of bending a tab at the back of the cart. So I know I didn't cover a lot in this video, but I wanted to at least document my first engine out golf cart job, because I've never done one before, and wanted to see how easy it was to replace that crankcase gasket. All in all, it was pretty smooth, and thanks to the Mower Medic, his video about using grease to use it as hydraulic pressure to pop that clutch off saved a ton of toil and trouble on my end. So thank you, Mower Medic, if you were watching this video. That's it for the golf cart, guys. If you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. I know I didn't document a lot of the process because I was unfamiliar with it. If I come across this again where I have to take an engine out of a golf cart, I will do a better job of documenting now that I know how to do the process. I at least have a starting point now. It's like we always have to start somewhere, right? So we did what we needed to do here, and it worked fairly well. Best case scenario given the starting scenario. I think I mentioned that it looked like the counterbalance had a little bit of wear on it. I bet that is where a little bit of the source of the knock is coming from. But y'all know them old Kawasaki's, they're tough. It'll probably run like that for a long time, truthfully, as long as you keep oil in it. But again, thank y'all for watching this video and for supporting the channel. We're getting close to the end of 2022, which means that we have been doing this, or I've been doing this for 6 full years now. I started in January of 2017. We moved up from push mowers, Walmart customer return push mowers. This year we've done golf carts, we've done boats, we've done scooters. We're doing all kinds of stuff. So I hope y'all stay tuned for more. Thank you again for watching. Again, you can reach out to me at Ellis at ellismowers.com or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. See y'all on the next video. Take care.